Die, Untermensch.
Hello dear viewers, in this video we will be discussing a comic book miniseries that definitely does everything it can to not only step over the line, but completely act like there isn't even a line. Things happen in this book that, if properly described, would get this video flagged. Some may even question their choices in life after reading it. With all that said, let's talk about The Boys, Herogasm. The explicit comic series might have an impact on the upcoming episodes of The Boys. I'm Andrew LaPomardo, your narrator, and this is Marvelous Videos. We all want to imagine a world where superheroes exist. But what if those superheroes were all self-centered, entitled, and went on annual group fornication? Sprees, have to keep it PG here, instead of saving the world from evil. Wouldn't that be quite the scandal?
Made you think I would ever allow a cripple into the Seven? For fuck's sakes, Ashley, don't look at him, look at me.
But this is precisely the kind of world that Amazon Prime's most popular series, The Boys, imagines itself in. Season 3 of the series, which began on June 3rd, adapted Herogasm, a narrative from the show's comic based on an annual superhero fornication fest.
Fucking psycho!
Stop it. You know how that ends. And besides,
It's an iconic miniseries from Garth Ennis's comic book narrative, and it's something that The Boys producer Eric Kripke has been working towards since the show's inception.
yeah, you're a real contender on American Hero. Keep it up. We could be teammates.
Oh, wow, I hope so, sir.
Jessica Shu, the show's writer and co-producer, wrote the episode, which she describes as glorious madness. Long before it became Amazon Prime's most successful original series, The Boys was quite a contentious franchise. Still, this season really takes the cake in terms of adult humor and also controversies. But let's be honest, if anything, the debatability of this series will probably just make it that much more interesting to watch. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Hey, everyone.
Now, we shall explore the comic series. Someone has to keep the superheroes in line. In a world where costumed heroes fly through the skies and masked vigilantes roam the night, someone needs to make sure the superheroes don't secretly become the very thing that people fear the most: supervillains. And someone will do it. It's a whole who watches the Watchmen thing.
Stay back! You stay the fuck back or I'll laser you, goddammit! I'll laser every fucking one of you!
The Boys, a team consisting of Billy Butcher, Huey, Mother's Milk, the Frenchman, and the female of the species, is a CIA-backed band of extremely dangerous individuals, each devoted to the fight against the most devastating force on Earth: superpowers. Some superheroes must have an eye kept on them, some must be kept under control, and some of them must be removed from the picture entirely, if the time calls for it. And that's when you summon the Boys. This is the setting that the series presents us with. Herogasm was the first release of the Boys miniseries, and it was controversial even by the Boys standards. Aside from obvious parodies of several prominent superheroes indulging in kinky at best and criminal at worst behaviors, the tale also offers insight into one of the most stunning scenes in the comic's original storyline, and also the role that the superhero team, the Seven, played in 9/11. This story arc in particular reveals where all the heroes and villains go during those periodic crossover events that jeopardize all reality, to a secret island staffed with the most refined and most discreet courtesans and escorts for an unparalleled depravity of alcohol, intoxicants, and adultery. And if you examine how much of those practices the heroes in the series engage in on a daily basis, your definition of debauch needs to be raised up a notch. But it's not all fun and games in the sun. Our very own famous five, the Boys themselves, plus Terror the dog, covertly join the Soups on their vacation and are served up more than lashings of ginger beer as they discover unpalatable truths behind the events of September 11th, 2001, as well as more Voight America Corporation plans to gain greater power in the free world. This entire volume takes place at a superhero retreat in Costa Rica, where the main event, Herogasm, is taking place.
Just like the rest of you, I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better.
Homelander, a powerful but villainous superhero, is holding a press conference in front of the Capitol building in Washington as the first issue, dubbed Babylon, begins. He says that the Marith Rei satellite, known as Battlet, has now reached the Earth's solar system. Images of this fearsome spaceship flying towards Earth are displayed to us. Homelander reveals that the G-Men were targeted by these invaders in a preemptive attack and have not been seen since, despite the fact that we all know that this is a story fabricated to explain the death of the G-Men by Voight America in the previous book. Homelander then claims that all of Earth's heroes have banded together for this massive superhero crossover, and they will all be traveling off into space shortly to fight the Marith Rei, and they will not be returning for quite some time. We now know that this is all a fabricated narrative and that all the Supes are heading to Costa Rica to spend a week at an island resort, running wild and engaging in reckless immoralities. Next, we see James Stillwell, a powerful executive who works for Voight America, in a private jet flying to the Herogasm. He's on the phone with his employer, who wants to speak with Vic the Vip, the Vice President of the United States, about the impending election and the many plans that Voight has for him. Stillwell does not appear to be excited about this. We next move on to the boys, who have also arrived in Costa Rica. They're also at Herogasm to observe the Supes and see what happens. When Vic the Veep and James Stillwell's jet lands, they are watching an aviation landing strip. Both of them are meeting at Herogasm because the security is excellent, making it an ideal location for a private rendezvous.
What did you say to me?
I'm sorry. Shit. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it.
Homelander leaps nude into the sky in front of an approaching airliner in the second issue of Herogasm, titled Amsterdam. As the plane falls, he fires lasers at the pilot, killing everyone on board. This event will be important later on. Vic the Veep arrives at the Herogasm party, evidently pleased by the sight of all the illegal activities. Gary Godfrey, Vic's chief of staff, is presented to us. There is a conversation between Stillwell and Godfrey. We learn from their discussion that Voight America operates Red River, a private military organization that has been placing covert operatives in the Secret Service. They've infiltrated the Secret Service, and some of Vic's Secret Service agents are also Red River. Some of them are unaware of who is in Red River and who isn't, and this will come into play later. While explaining this to Stillwell, Godfrey says that they must be careful of what they say to some of Vic the Veep's security detail because they are not all on their side. Homelander then flies in to speak with Stillwell, and Stillwell begins detailing the entire plot to him. Vic the Veep is too stupid to even win the election on his own, so they plan to kill the president. Stillwell wishes to convey this scheme to Vic at Herogasm, but the specifics are complicated and his intelligence is limited, making it a tricky subject. Stillwell requests that Homelander make Vic and his group feel welcome at Herogasm. After a short while, members of the superhero group Payback contact Stillwell, complaining about Vic's improper behavior. Stillwell appeases them by diminishing the Veep's mental abilities and instructs them to suck it up and cope with it for the time being. He then tries to bribe them by promising them more funds and resources to bring them up to the level of the most incredible superhero team of all time, the Seven, in exchange for dealing with the boys once and for all.
Whatever it is, maybe we can use it to blow Homelander's fucking brains out.
As a distraction in issue 3 of the series, titled Vegas, the boys throw the body of a superhero dubbed the Doofer from a roof and into a pool. During the confusion of what transpired, the boys abduct one of Vic the Veep's Secret Service squad members. Huey was in the sewers while Butcher, Frenchie, and the female were planning the kidnapping. Black Noir grabs him and assaults him, knocking Huey unconscious. Back at the pool, Homelander examines the Doofer's body and concludes that Doofer overdosed, strolled off the roof high as a kite, and plunged off. He urges everyone not to be alarmed because the death was an accident. Butcher searches the sewers for Huey, but Huey refuses to be discovered. Meanwhile, Godfrey is meeting with Stillwell to plan the meeting with Vic that will take place later. Godfrey also shows some paperwork concerning the Trans-Pacific jet that crashed due to the Homelander. Huey eventually awakens and breaks out of whatever transpired between him and Black Noir. He finds Butcher and relaxes a little. He is then presented with U.S. Secret Service agent Michael Lucero, the subject of their abduction. In issue 4 of Herogasm, titled Sparta, some of the Secret Service agents are concerned that Agent Lucero has gone AWOL. But they don't look into it too deeply and simply believe he's busy. Agent Lucero is, meanwhile, telling the boys his story. He'd always wanted to join the Secret Service since it seemed like a noble endeavor. He was at first okay with being assigned to Vic, but soon recognized Vic was not right in the brain. But he is pleased that he waited, since he was present in the Situation Room with the President and Veep when one of America's greatest tragedies occurred. The President was prepared on the day of the incident. For months, he had been on high alert. He sent a jet fighter to shoot at a hijacked airliner, instructing them to engage and kill the target even though innocent passengers were aboard. He ordered the downing of 2 of the hijacked flights, and the 3rd boarded at the airport, but the 4th plane remained at large. The President was suddenly smacked in the head and knocked out, likely by Vic the Vip, who continued saying, "Tell NORAD to order weapons hold." This statement has been taught to him by Voight America. The room fell silent, but the people in the room were finally obliged to obey Vic's command and notified the fighter aircraft to stand down. The President's assault was ignored, since the current terrorist attack took precedence over this issue. Vic's involvement could not be proven. Since then, the White House has been in a state of civil war. The President is aware that Vic and Voight America are up to something, but he lacks evidence and hence cannot act. Agent Lucero expresses his hope that the boys will be able to set things right. Stillwell and Godfrey are still waiting for Vic. When he arrives, Stillwell instructs him on how he is to behave and how he has to oversee the adoption of superhuman powers by the U.S. Department of Defense.
In the end, only one of us left standing.
Butcher has allowed Agent Lucero to go in issue 5 of Herogasm, dubbed Hollywood, because he is now an ally of sorts. When Agent Lucero returns to his fellow Secret Service agents, he fabricates a narrative about getting into a fight with one of the superheroes. Later, he tells one of his Secret Service acquaintances that the problem of Voight America's Red River Gang infiltrating the Secret Service security detail may have to be addressed. Godfrey, who is strolling past them, overhears him as he says this. Godfrey then orders a Secret Service agent loyal to Red River to search the whole island. On the other side of the island, Stillwell is seated in a bar with a high-end escort who pretends to be off the clock. Stillwell knows after conversing with her for a bit that she's been hired by someone who wants to keep him occupied. He threatens her and tells her to reveal who that person is. Meanwhile, Homelander is accepting his prize for the best hero at the Soupies. He says he has an important announcement to make to all of his co-workers in the room. He wants to explain why he had lasered the plane earlier. But before he can finish his sentence, he spots Stillwell walking in. Homelander is taken aback and hurriedly exits the stage with his award. Backstage, we can tell Homelander is enraged. This is how we learn that Homelander hired the escort to keep Stillwell busy. Jumping over to Agent Lucero, who is with the Secret Service acquaintance, he notices Red River personnel combing the island and becomes concerned that they will locate the boys. Lucero teams up with the boys in issue 6 of Herogasm, named Golgotha, and they knock down the Red River men who are scouring the island and decide to hold them hostage so they can keep making their hourly check-ins with Godfrey so he doesn't grow suspicious. The following day, all of the heroes prepare to leave the island and begin heading out. Godfrey, along with Vic the Veep, wants to leave the island as well, so he radios his Secret Service colleagues to call it quits and return. Vic then gets off the plane, forcing an irate Godfrey to go out and find him and bring him back. Meanwhile, Red River operatives fight the boys and seize their jet. They attempt to take off and flee. Lucero is severely hurt, but he manages to leap off the train before it departs. The Frenchman throws the female onto the jet as it takes off, and she grips onto it to try and stop them. She damages enough of the plane to force it to crash, killing everyone on board. Meanwhile, Agent Lucero encounters Godfrey and Vic. He shoots and kills Godfrey with the last of his might before succumbing to his injuries. Vic the Veep manages to flee the island and escapes unharmed. The boys are likewise eager to return home now that the Herogasm has concluded. They honor the body of Agent Lucero by draping it with the American flag, thus ending the volume.
Teddy Stillwell.
Here is the marvelous verdict on this raw comic strip. The news that Amazon Prime Video's The Boys will adapt the famed Herogasm plot was, to say the least, startling. The miniseries had so much depravity that it startled many people. That, however, detracts from the fact that it's a terrific narrative and a vital part of The Boys' legend. This narrative goes right to the end of the series despite all of the fornication, intoxicants, and other things that can't be mentioned. Told you, keeping it clean. It's fantastic that the show's creative staff was able to make this scenario a reality. Whatever they do, the mere inclusion of this miniseries will make it unforgettable.
Jump.
Please, I just want to get
I'm not
down.
suggesting anymore.
Yes, just as you'd anticipate if you've been following The Boys at all, Herogasm is dirty, filthy, laugh-out-loud and shock explosion from start to finish. The general tone is boisterous as Ennis searches for even more perverse and hilarious scenarios for the series' color-splash supporting cast to get themselves into, taking satirical shots at the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, many members of Batman's Rogues Gallery, and dozens more. Artist John McCree's ability for pleasant goonery has rarely been used for a better purpose. Even the most horrifying and vile crimes are rendered with a chirpy gloss that effectively complements the harsher moments. Ennis's writing is once again excellent. And the artwork by his longtime Hitman colleague John McCree is fantastic as well. Bonus features are missing from the miniseries, but they aren't essential because the festive spirit drives the novel. Both the actors and the readers get a much-needed vacation from the main series, which is now in a very grim setting. It can't be denied that the comic is quite violent and explicit, but at the same time, it is also a very entertaining read that has a huge fan base. Overall, like it has been said many times before, when reviewing The Boys, you just can't go wrong with this series. Here is why some are hesitant about watching the Herogasm episode. Not everyone will like the Herogasm episode or comic series. They contain multiple instances of substance abuse, violence, and other content that may not be appropriate for all viewers and readers. So, before you read the comics or watch the show, be prepared to see things you're not used to seeing. Anthony Starr, who plays the villainous superhero Homelander in The Boys, has stated that he would not be watching the Herogasm episode of the superhero parody series either. The New Zealand actor addressed his reservations about witnessing the rendition of the classic comic book narrative in an interview with GQ. He stated that he was aware that the comic book fans were eager to watch it, but he's a bit of a prude, so he'll fast forward through that episode. Starr wasn't the only one on set who was taken aback at the sight of a group of naked superheroes making love to each other. Co-star Jensen Ackles reportedly quipped that seeing so many naked extras was a traumatic experience for the entire team. Chase Crawford, who plays the Deep in the series, also joked that his co-stars were scarred after filming the episode.
You really need to lighten up, guys.
Come on, Starlight. Mario's waiting.
A few special words from the showrunner. The showrunner of The Boys has stated that Season 3's version of the Herogasm narrative will shatter fans' hearts. The news that The Boys Season 3 will adapt Herogasm came directly from the creator Eric Kripke. He was also discussing the news that supernatural actor Jensen Ackles would portray Soldier Boy, a Captain America spoof. In an interview with SFX magazine, Kripke touted the Prime Video series interpretation of the comic's most contentious arc. He described it as a big adults-only event and a humorous, strange atmosphere for the episode, stating that it is well known among The Boys fans. He further noted, if there's one thing The Boys are good at, it's breaking your heart in the middle of an unsavory event. Even in such an unusual setting, the cast managed to deliver some very dramatic, tragic sequences.
What did you do?
Something I should have done a long time ago. This is a superhero company.
According to Kripke, the performers, and the crew, the episode Herogasm in The Boys Season 3 will retain the essence of the comic miniseries, which is primarily shock and appall. Back in 2019, when The Boys Season 1 was still in its early stages, Kripke claimed that Herogasm would be included in Season 3 if it was greenlit, and that the writing team wanted to figure out their spin on it, so it simply wasn't an hour of extreme fornication. Thankfully, they appear to have done so, without sacrificing the outrageousness that the adaptation requires. Chase Crawford also voiced concern for the audience, claiming he was afraid for them to witness some of the content in Season 3. He said he hadn't seen much of it yet either, and he's curious to see how it comes out. Jensen Ackles also recently said that the crew of Herogasm was traumatized while filming sequences. He responded that he knew what would happen, but he was simply interested as to see how it would work. Even the director admitted that he had no idea what he was filming at the time.
Tell him you fished the Flight 37 video out in the Atlantic and gave it to Maeve.
Conclusion. All the events that transpire in the mini-comic series are bound to make the Herogasm episode of The Boys an iconic one. The Boys have already set itself apart as an action series, with its quirky plot lines and less than ordinary take on the superhero genre, and this episode will probably just be another feather in its cap. With the way the series has blended and dealt with comedic and dramatic elements so effectively thus far, this episode will likely be no exception. The finer specifics will remain a mystery until the release of the episode, but for now, the statements made by the cast and crew are the only important disclosures regarding Kripke's Herogasm adaptation, other than its exclusions and the fact that it only takes up one episode. Nonetheless, it's more than enough to create considerable excitement and dread for what may be The Boys' most contentious moment yet. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.